Well, we'll just hop in. Heather, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute after the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's great.
You bet. So before we get into your good work, I want to know this. I would start with this question because it was such a pivot point. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed the world, changed all of us. How did
Mm.
you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
Wow, that is a good question. I was working in the office at a time. I was working with software development teams, so we worked closely every day. But we did have a remote office already, so we kind of understood how to do that well. We just needed to convert the rest of the company to working remotely. So we already had some standards, kind of, and practices for how we communicate and how we work, how we build software when you're not sitting next to the person. But for me personally, I mean, I always had this idea that I would hate working from home. I just didn't feel like I would be able to be productive. But man, for me, it was like an eye opener of how much more productive you can actually be when you're working from home. And so I mean, at first it impacted me because I think my days went to being much more packed in, like back to back meetings. I ended up in this spot where I was just all day meetings back to back, hardly any break. And I think, that was probably my own fault for letting that get like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, today I run a fully virtual company. So my home office is our headquarters and everybody works from their home and we build amazing technologies. And so like it really opened up for me the possibility of living that kind of a life, building that kind of a company and knowing that we could do it and we could do it well. So it it definitely influenced how we run our company today.
So let's get into the work that you're doing and to simplify or to make it more accessible to everyone. I'm going to put you in front of 13-year-olds at career day. And one of the kids in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. How do you make your day job make sense to their brains?
Okay, I guess I would say, I call that kind of the grandma test, if you can explain it to your grandma or your mom.
Yeah.
But and we build amazing technology that helps businesses do things better, faster, cheaper, right? So we leverage technology, things like AI and other emerging technologies to make businesses better. So that's kind of how I would give it to you, and like I was talking to my mom or 13-year-old.
Yeah, for sure. So when you were that age, what was your dream job? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man. I think for a while I wanted to be an astronaut
Yeah.
and realized that was a pretty tough road and not many people made it. And then I really kind of shifted over to I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an emergency room doctor. So I majored in biology in college, loved it, but didn't get into medical school. And since I was already in the Air Force ROTC program, I went into the military. So I at least knew I had a job coming out of college.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about growing up. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've ever remembered the Drew Carey show, I don't know if you ever remember
Oh,
that
yes.
show.
Uh-huh.
He was from Parma, and that's exactly the little suburb that I grew up in.
Okay. All right. So talk to me a little bit about what were the elements that made you want to get into medicine, Air Force, and eventually AI and technology and what you're doing? What were all of the ingredients that went into the soup?
Yeah, certainly a windy path, as you probably experience a lot from talking to people. My mom was a nurse. Biology was something in science that just always interested me. And so the idea of helping people and using science to help people, that was one of the reasons I wanted to be a doctor. Then, as I said, it kind of like ended up in the Air Force, had a boyfriend who was interested in the Air Force, enlisted. And so I started thinking, well, maybe I'll check this thing out. And I knew they had scholarships. So I ended up getting an ROTC scholarship and ended up just feeling really at home with the military and it just felt like a good fit for me. So stuck with that, did that for 20 years till I retired. Um, and then had to make that transition from, veteran military environment to corporate America. And that was interesting. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, well, no, I'm just and we can't keep going with the timeline, but at this point, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
being in the military, how did that groom you for what you're doing
Mm.
right now? Was it a direct kind of result of being in a high pressure environment to right now?
I would say, I learned a lot about leadership and building trust. And I feel like I learned more from bad leaders than I even did from good leaders. It definitely had both, good examples of both. But it was those bad leaders who I was like, oh man, I am never going to do that. I am never going to be that kind of boss. And I think, just watching how those people and their behaviors impacted other people, like that really shaped the way I wanted to run my company. We are what I say a people first company. And I want my company is, we prioritize people over profits. And that was a lesson that I kind of learned working in corporate America. But definitely the military shaped the leader that I am today.
So talk to me a little bit about AI. I know there's everybody kind of gets on this one side. It's either going to go bad because when humans get their hands on things, it can get scary. Then there's another side that is like more logical about how we'll use it, and it's an
Right.
aid to existing things. Where do you land on the entirety of how we're dealing with AI in 2026?
I'm definitely on the logical side.
Yeah.
But I am fearful, still there's a little part of me that's a little scared of what could happen. So I think maybe that's healthy, just like healthy fears. Hopefully it'll keep everybody in check, that fear that we all have of, all the movies we've all seen. But definitely on the logical side, I can see so many benefits, so many ways that it can help companies and people and just do their jobs better and focus on maybe more important work instead of more, tedious things. Um, but I also do worry about the environmental impact. So I feel like it's something we need to be cautious about.
I think about that story of Kennedy and Khrushchev during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where they were sending telegrams to each other. And there was almost a point where buttons were going to be pushed and it was going to get really bad. And I
Mhm.
think about how arcane it is to even think that it took that long for them to communicate back and forth, but we have this
Yeah.
instantaneous level right now of AI. So hopefully, from a military standpoint, there's a lot of checks and balances and layers before anything happens. But I've also talked to a lot of AI engineers that say it's really an aggregate of what human beings are doing in general. So most people, I would imagine, that are using AI are just getting in there and searching and using it as an aid to existing intelligence. So if that's the aggregate, then we're okay. It's just those little nuggets of nefarious activity that we don't want to see getting in there.
Right. And, it's certainly made that nefarious activity easier for some people, to
Yeah.
go do bad things.
Hmm.
So we have to be thinking one step ahead of them, and be trying to, again, stay on that, like that good side, the positive side to prevent the bad things from happening.
So who's been your inspirational force in your career from the beginnings to right now? Who has been that heroic force in your life?
Hmm. I guess I mean, I would just go back to my parents, just setting a good foundation, core values, having integrity, doing the right thing. That's that's carried me all the way through. Like those are some of our core values in my company now. Our motto is do the right thing and do the thing right. So, that goes back to my upbringing. But I certainly had a number of great leaders who I, followed, military generals and other people who were just so poised and so thoughtful with their words and really took the time to put good strategy in place and hire the right people. I think that definitely has influenced me over the last couple of years.
So, has there been a tech leader or an entrepreneurial mind or business that has inspired the way that you run your operation? I mean, from the top
Mm,
down, good product, customer
yeah.
retention, everybody's happy as an employee. I mean, there's
Yeah.
never a true utopia, but is there anybody that you've modeled your work after?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my first job out of the Air Force was with a small agile software development company called Asynchrony, and they're right here in St. Louis. And they were, really groundbreaking at the time, very leading edge with agile and those processes. And everybody just loved working there. I felt like I was working at Google. Like to me, it was just like this cool environment. People were happy. We had this great workplace where everybody kind of enjoyed. We had ping pong table and, just a respect for humans and treating people well and having class just processes and really owning the craft of software development. That was definitely an amazing experience, and I learned a lot from those founders and the things that they did. And I tried to bring the good things from there into my own company. So certainly goes back to that.
So when it comes to technology in your life and timeline of dealing with it, what's your favorite piece of software and favorite piece of hardware?
Oh my. I mean, hardware, I guess my mind goes to like my phone, right? Like
Yeah.
who could live without their phone these days? I
Uh,
can and it's almost a crutch because we do everything on it. We work on it, we play on it. So I mean, hardware, definitely phone. Software, oh man, I don't know. Like especially with everything out there, new with the new AI stuff, that's hard to pick. It's hard to
yeah.
pick a favorite.
I love the iPhone 4. I know we've traveled past it, but I love the blocky nature of it. I went to and I'm a tech guy. I do technology by day. I'm a technician, so I've been in technology since the days of the 90s when
Yeah.
the companies, the CEOs didn't want to pay for a tech person, so you learned it on the job, which was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
but it's interesting. I went to a Wanda Sykes show. We got tickets a few years ago, and you had to put your phone in a bag. I don't know if you've been to an
Oh,
event. They locked it up so you couldn't do
wow.
anything. I think comedians are getting to that point now because they're becoming kind of public enemy number one in their bits. So they don't want anybody doing anything with recording. So
Hmm.
people were actually talking and milling around, and I could see people, their legs shaking and looking around like, what am I going to do? I don't have my phone. So it was a really weird social experiment to be a part of, you
Yeah.
know.
You ever try to just put it down and leave it for a while? It's hard.
It is hard. It's really hard. You almost have to be forced to go to a comedy show to see what it's like, you know? So,
Well, working in the military for so many years, we could never have our phone in my building that I worked in. So you do get used to living without it, but as soon as you're out, you're like, oh, what's
oh
happened
yeah.
today?
Uh-huh.
Find out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. What is the motivation? What is the energy for you every day to do this job at a high level? I mean, you have a lot of demands running a company and it's technology, so you got to stay on top of that. You have your soul and your life you need to take care
Mhm.
of. What is that every day for you to do it at a high level?
Well, I would go back to some of the lessons I learned when I worked in corporate America. And what I learned there was that corporate America by design is designed to prioritize profits over everything. That's just the way it's designed, right? It doesn't mean those companies are bad. But I got to a point where I realized all my frustrations were around decisions that were being made around people. And just really not prioritizing people in the decision making. So that was what kind of inspired me to create a company where we do prioritize people above profits. And that is kind of what gets me going. It's like that and being able to work with amazing technology, amazing engineers, and work with clients where I know we are really going to help them. Like we're not one of those vendors that's going to give you a PowerPoint and walk away. Like that is not how we operate. We're here to bring you value. Why else would you pay us unless we're bringing you real value that's going to change your business and change how you do everything, day to day. So that's what gets me up in the morning. I also get to work with my husband every day, which has been amazing. You might not think that, for some relationships, but for ours, it's been strengthening, like just to be able to work with him every day and share everything that's going on with someone who's in the thick of it with me. It's been amazing.
Yeah. So when you see that big, huge word retirement flash up
Hmm.
in your mind, what do you think about? Does that factor into your
Oh
thought?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of on a 5-year plan at this point. My husband's older than me, and so we've kind of picked this date out there in about 4 or 5 years where I'd like to step back from the company. I can still be running the company, but I don't want to be in the day-to-day, nug of it. You know how exhausting that is. So I want to be able to step back and travel. That's our plan. We've got like a 10-year travel plan already out there, and and our plan is just go travel the world, visit family, spend more quality time with people we love.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version, if you're ready to go out into the world, and you walked in and there was a film projector and you click play, and there was this 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived, the choices you've made. Would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
No, I don't think I could have ever predicted that I would end up working in AI. Like I always loved science and technology, but it took such a huge, you know, turn for me that I don't think I would have ever expected. And what I would tell that person is just go and do it. Just go out and do it. Stop being afraid. Stop being anxious about what people think, because we know now, like nobody cares. You know,
Yeah.
just go do your thing and be confident and stop worrying about everything else.
So what's the highlight out of that 60-second reel? What are you the proudest of?
Oh, just the family I've built. You know, I have 6 children. We're a blended family, 4 daughters, 2 older boys, and I would say that is the thing I'm most proud of.
So, the one thing about being in the military is they're the ones that are on the forefront of technology. They're the ones that develop it. Has being in that world helped you and your kind of technology under?
The military are on the cutting edge.
Okay.
Okay. Small parts. It is very slow. The DoD is very slow to adopt some technologies, or they'll do it in small pieces first. So I think it definitely gave me a sense of like how much we rely on technology. I mean, I worked for the U.S. Transportation Command for years, and they run the entire logistical supply chain for the entire Department of Defense. So talk about IT systems. I mean, you're talking about 100 or more real giant IT systems. So I learned a lot about like just the scope and how big things can get and what it takes to really run an organization of that size and those size operations. I mean, I think as far as being on the leading edge, I think I learned a lot more on the commercial side just
Yeah.
because it's easier to be on the leading edge, and clients are easier to want to be on that leading edge of technology and spend money on that. So they both taught me great valuable lessons for sure.
So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. We have all these little bubbles that we exist in this world. Family, friends, clients, employees, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. Well, that's a question I haven't been asked in a while, or maybe ever. I don't know. I think people assume because you're a CEO, you're great at everything, or like you have it all together and you've got it figured out. And the reality is that nobody has it all figured out, right? We all have things we're great at. We all have things we're struggling with, and it's a struggle to be a CEO because everything's on your shoulders. And, you know, it's it's just a lot of weight mentally to carry all that, knowing people's lives are in your hands. So I think, I project a lot of confidence. I try to. And you always have to project that you know a lot, but I think the reality is that we're all learning as we go. We're all struggling with something. And that's just the way life is.
Yeah,
So,
certainly is. So, what's the greatest thing about living in St. Louis?
oh, St. Louis is a great community, and it's very like got that very Midwestern, I'll help you out kind of feel. People are friendly, they wave to you when you're driving by, and I think there's a lot to do. So I'm about 30 minutes outside the city, which is great because I live around cornfields and there's a lot of space. But then in 30 minutes, I'm at the ball game. I'm at the symphony, I'm visiting the arch. So there's so much to do, and yet you don't have to be like right in the middle of the city to do it.
And you have a baseball team that's pretty winning. I always feel so
Yeah.
bad for Cleveland. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Oh, yeah,
just
I
like,
know what you're saying because, I'm a Cleveland fan.
I mean, other than LeBron coming back and the championship, I just think about all the near
Yeah.
misses that have happened over the years. So,
We are so used to being disappointed.
it's so heartbreaking.
It
Um,
is.
so if anybody wants to reach out, they want to find out more about your business, they have questions, any of the good business, where's the best place for them to go?
I would direct you to my website, mcleanforrester.com. You can also reach out on LinkedIn to me. I'm pretty active out there. Or you can email me at info@mcleanforrester.com.
Okay. Heather, thank you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. Best of
Of
luck with
course.
everything. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it was wonderful. Appreciate
Yes.
it.
Thank you. And I